We're going to talk about protein, fiber, and healthy fasting. We're going to start off talking about fasting, but I'm going to ask you some questions first, okay? So, protein, fiber, and healthy fat. So, let me ask you a question. This is the question I want to ask. What if I could give you one thing that could healthfully extend your life for 10 years? It could be one piece of advice, one pill, what if I could give you that? Would you be interested? And our goal is to basically, if you're here because you're overweight or you're suffering from insulin resistance, and insulin resistance, number one cause is primarily obesity and taking in too many carbohydrates every day. If your goal is that, then one of the things we have to talk about is fasting. Because what happens with glucose being given every single day, when you eat breakfast and your glucose goes up. So if you're going to eat some Cheerios, some rice, some oatmeal, some bacon, eggs, and toast and orange juice, or pancakes, your glucose is going to go up and then it's going to come down in an hour. But that's not the problem. Your glucose goes up and comes down in an hour, but your insulin is the problem. Your insulin goes up and it stays up 3 hours, 4 hours, all right? So our problem is that insulin is supposed to go up and come down or not go up much at all, right? But when we eat a carbohydrate type of meal, our insulin goes up and it stays up for 3 to 4 hours. Well, what happens after we eat it? 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock, and 4 hours passes by. Then it's lunchtime. So our insulin hadn't had a chance to come down yet. So we eat lunchtime, and it's usually a sandwich or a salad with some croutons in it, or something that has some carbohydrate in it, some fruit, and so our insulin stays up for another 4 hours. And then usually we don't get throughout the day without eating something in between lunch and dinner. And that's usually a snack. And it could be a sandwich, it could be an apple, it could be a pear, it could be some chips or some crackers or things like that. Usually we're putting something in our mouths other than liquid between the hours of noon and dinner time, okay? That keeps the insulin level up another 4 hours. So what you eventually got is insulin being up all day long. And insulin comes down when you're sleepy, all right? But during that time that insulin is up, your cells initially are responsive to insulin. And what does insulin do? It takes glucose and pushes it into the cell to make energy. That's how we live, to make our brains function, to make our muscles function, to make our body function. Insulin pushes glucose into the cell, which is fuel. It's the oatmeal and the Cheerios and the sandwiches that we eat. And we push it into the muscle cells, the liver cells, and things of that nature for energy, okay? All right. But if we do that every single day, that pattern that I just mentioned, if we do that every single day and our insulin stays up all day, every day, our cells are going to say, I'm tired, man. I just can't keep opening this door. Just imagine you got some naughty neighbor kids, and they're constantly running over to your house, and they're basically ringing the doorbell. You come to the door, and they're scattering. And they do that again. You come to the door, and there's nobody there. And they do that again. Well, eventually, what are you going to do? You're not going to answer that doorbell because you know it's those naughty kids trying to trick you. That's what's happening to the body. Our body is seeing insulin, which is the naughty kids from the next door neighbor's house, and they're ringing the doorbell, so let me in. You'll come to the door a couple of times. You may even come to the door 3 times. That insulin may push that glucose in up to 2 to 3 times. But if you're doing that all day long, if those kids keep playing that joke on you all day long, you're going to stop answering the doorbell, or you're going to disconnect the doorbell. And that's what the body is doing. Your body cells have stopped listening to you being able to push that glucose into the cells for energy. That's called insulin resistance. Because what happens to that glucose then? It has to do 2 things. Number one, it stays in the blood. That's where our hemoglobin A1C goes up. That's where our fasting glucose goes up. That's where our fasting insulin stays up. But the body is still got some survival mechanisms that it's not going to keep 200 grams of glucose in your bloodstream all day long. It's just not. That'll damage your kidneys, that'll damage your brain, that'll damage your vessels to your eyes, you'll go blind, it'll damage everything. So your body still has this protective mechanism. So what is it going to do with that extra glucose? It's going to put it into the fat cells. That's the safe haven. puts it into the fat cells will grow. Fat cells grow, we become obese. All right. So that's this technique. And what I'm getting to is basically what we're trying to do is to decrease that 4-hour insulin level down to a steady level. What do? Well, basically we have to take in protein. When we're taking protein, that doesn't give us a very, very high insulin or glucose spike. And so if we keep our glucose level all day by eating protein first and then fiber, and cut down on the starchy carbohydrates or the refined carbohydrates especially, we're going to keep our glucoses in a normal level. I'm going to show you my personal example of that I just started on Wednesday. I have my continuous glucose monitor on. You can't see it, but I'll show it to you. And I started an experiment just so I can show you all today. And so stay tuned for that. All right? So, again, that diet, what we eat during the day matters. Then we go to sleep, our insulin level come down, all right? And then what even matters even more is fasting. If we can go a certain period of time, not only does fasting keep our insulin levels low, it also creates this period called autophagy. What is autophagy? Autophagy is when your body can actually clean itself out. You need autophagy to be activated every single day. Just like if you want to talk about it in terms that you understand, your bowels have to move every now and then, right? You don't necessarily have a bowel movement every day, but you've got to have a bowel movement, or else your body will fill up with waste and it will suffer, okay? So autophagy is just that. It's just not in our intestinal system. It's our cells, our liver cells, our immune cells, our cells all over our body, just getting rid of the waste, because metabolism creates waste, all right? Just like metabolism in our gastrointestinal tract creates poo-poo, waste, all right? So we have to excrete it. Autophagy only occurs when our insulin levels are down. It never occurs when our insulin levels are up. So when we're eating, when our insulin levels are up for 4 hours and all day long, there is no autophagy. No autophagy. And when we're going to sleep, you get about 6 to 8 hours of autophagy. The studies are fairly clear. It takes 14 hours of autophagy to begin the cycle of autophagy. Let me say that differently. It takes 14 hours before good autophagy begins. So when I talk about going from 12 hours to 14 hours, 14 hours of fasting, there's a reason for that. That is the reason, because the studies show that it takes 14 hours minimum before autophagy gets started. 14 hours minimum before autophagy gets started. And it can only get started when your insulin levels are low. So just going to sleep at 9 or 10 o'clock and waking up in the morning and having 8 to 9 hours of autophagy, your body hadn't started it yet. So if you say, okay, fine, my insulin levels are low when I go to bed, cool. No, your autophagy doesn't begin until 14 hours, okay? So keep that in mind. That is why we want to get to that point of cleaning out our system, lowering our insulin, lower our glucose levels, decrease the amount of glucose that gets stored as fat. We want to do all of that stuff by following a particular routine. And this routine is fairly simple, fairly straightforward. We've been talking about it for eons and eons, and I'm going to show you the data. All right. So I hope that I answered that question about fasting. Why? Yeah. We'll come back to it because, again, I want to bake that into your brains. 14 hours is what we're going to go to. So if you get to 16 hours, yay. 18 hours, yeah. No real strong data that shows that 18 hours is better than 14 hours. No strong data at all. I just like to do it because when I finish this webinar, will be a certain period of time. I'm still not hungry because I've taken in a certain thing that keeps my hunger away. But the main thing that keeps your hunger away is the fact that you're burning ketones. That's another topic for another day. All right, questions for you. Now I'm going to put these questions up, but I'm going to go to that second slide where I give the questions and the answer. All right, so I'm going to go through these questions. Here's the first question. We're going to talk about these things briefly. What is GLP-1? You all know the answer to that. GLP-1 is something that we want. We're getting it by buying it and putting it into our subcutaneous tissue with a shot. But it is glucagon-like polypeptide 1. Long name, no need for you to remember it. You know it as Wegovy. You know it as semaglutide. You know it as Mounjaro, Ozempic, or tirzepatide. That's the brand names that are out there that we're injecting. But what you don't know, or what you may not know, is that we make our own. They got these ideas from your own body. We make our own, and so what do we want to do is actually stimulate our own. Because I'm going to say it several times until you're bored of it. But this is too much. The shots that we're giving you, I'm just as guilty as everybody else. The shots are too strong, and we've demonstrated that by having the intestinal tract paralyzed, having the facial muscle paralyzed, having the muscle mass decrease. All these side effects are primarily because of the dose we're given. Why do I know that? It's because we're making GLP-1 in our bodies, and none of those side effects are occurring. We're not getting nausea and vomiting from the GLP-1 that we're making. We're not getting muscle loss from the GLP-1 that my L cells are making in my small bowel. We're not getting Ozempic face from what we're making, no. Because the dose that we're making is the right dose. So what I'm saying is that the GLP-1 levels that you are getting in your shots is too much. 2.4 milligrams. Our body makes 2.4 micrograms or nanograms. Nanograms is the smallest particle that we can make. And so our body makes things in nanograms. We're given 2.4 milligrams just to start out with. That's 1,000 times the dose of what our body's making. Somebody's got to say, well, why doesn't our body make it that high of a dose? We don't give thyroid medicine like that. We don't give thyroid medicine, thyroxine, in the form of 1,000 times this dose. We don't give insulin when people are type 1 diabetic. We don't give insulin 1,000 times what the body is normally able to make. We don't give cortisol injections that are 1,000 times what our adrenals can make. Why are we giving GLP-1? Something to say, all right. GLP-1 is glucagon-like polypeptide 1. We make our own, and so our goal is to activate our own. Because, I have the studies here, but I'm not going to bore you with them because I'm not going to get trapped like that. The studies have shown that everybody who's overweight or obese, it is a deficiency of GLP-1. You have a deficiency of GLP-1. The studies have shown it. We've taken portal vein samples of your GLP-1. Sometimes when you're not eating, we take it's called fasting GLP-1 levels. We take that sample, it's almost non-existent. Then we give you a glucose load to stimulate it. It goes up just a smidgen. Okay? So we know that you're GLP-1 deficient. Now, whether that's the chicken or the egg, we have no idea. What I'm saying is that there's some people that theorize that obesity comes from our lack of GLP-1, just like type 1 diabetes comes from our genetic lack of insulin. But we don't know that yet. We don't know that there is an initial genetic deficiency in GLP-1. I'm of the opinion that says our GLP-1 is destroyed by what we're doing in our environment, the foods that we eat. And those types of foods destroy our own GLP-1. Okay? And then we become obese. So GLP-1 is that. All right, number 2, if I can get it. What are the 3 main functions of GLP-1? Well, let me tell you the story about GLP-1. We want our elevated GLP-1 the same reason you want to buy it across the counter or the same reason you want your doctor to write the prescription. We want to lose weight. We want to be more specific than just losing weight because we really don't want to lose bone mass, muscle mass, or water mass, which are the other 3 components of weight. We only want to lose fat mass. And so we want to lose that fat, okay? Because the fat is dangerous. The fat is cosmetically not appealing, but we want to lose it, all right? What GLP-1 does is 3 functions that keep us from taking in calories, that keep our insulin levels low, and then allows us to burn fat. In other words, it allows us to lose the weight we want to lose. It allows us to lose fat. That's why people may be here today. It increases our satiety. It means that it makes our body feel full on smaller amounts. So if I normally for breakfast eat 2 eggs, 2 pieces of bacon, slice of toast, some orange juice, and an avocado, increase satiety, when my GLP-1 is active, I'll take that bite of that first egg. And then after I digest it, I'll like, whoa, that hit the spot. That's called satiety. That's when you feel full on small amounts of food. And chances are that I won't finish that rest of that plate. And I'll learn from that and say, I just wasted some food. And so the next time I eat breakfast and I know my GLP-1 is on target, I won't eat 2 eggs, 2 slices of bacon, and so forth. I'll make me 1 boiled egg, and I'll be satisfied. All right? That's satiety. Is satiety good? Yes, if you're trying to rob your body of calories. Because that 1 egg is only going to give you so many calories. I need like 2,000 calories a day. That 1 egg, maybe what, 20, 30 calories? So I'm on to a start where I'm going to have a calorie deficit if I continue that throughout the day. If I need 2,000 calories and all of my meals, my 2 meals, probably going to give me about 800 calories, I'm going to have a 1,200 calorie deficit, which in just a minute you'll find out that is what we want. All right, number 2 and number 3 as it pops up here. All right, it blunts the brain's reward system for processed foods. All the restaurants, all the fast food chains basically have food engineers that make their food very, very tasty and guess what? Addictive. All right? They know what to put in it, what kind of seasoning, what kind of texture to put in it to make it go into the back of your tongue and stimulate the mid part of your brain, stimulating the release of dopamine. But I call it an addiction because, when we start eating that type of food, we say, whoa, and you take another bite, and you may not even be hungry. But because that food feels so good in the back part of your tongue, your brain, your reward system, it says, wow, that feels good. All right? And so if that feels good, regardless of whether we're hungry or not, we're going to continue to eat it because it sends a signal that feels good. That's why people eat when they're not hungry. That's why they have a problem just snacking all day, is because it feels good. It's releasing dopamine from the brain. You don't know that, but you say, Doc, my problem is that I'm not even hungry. I just find myself going to the refrigerator, find myself watching TV, find myself just kind of nervous, and I'm just kind of chewing on something. So when you're a nervous eater, when you're basically a constant snacker, it's primarily because you're stressed about something, and you need that dopamine. That dopamine is soothing. And that dopamine soothes you. And when you take that bite of something that you don't need, that Snickers bar, that candy, that popcorn, that cracker, that tortilla chip, you take that bite and all of a sudden, okay, now I can sit and think a little bit. That's the dopamine. Okay, so that's what happens. It blunts, but GLP-1 blocks that. Okay, so you don't get the reward from the chips anymore. You don't get the reward from the candy or the reprocessed foods anymore. It blocks that. So do we need GLP-1? Yes. And it also blocks the release of ghrelin, which kind of goes along with feeling full on smaller amounts of food. Ghrelin increases satiety. Ghrelin basically is the I'm hungry hormone. Basically what GLP-1 does is it blocks the I'm hungry hormone. When it blocks that I'm hungry hormone, you don't eat as much. All right, so we did 3 things to where we're not going to eat as much. If we follow what our GLP-1 is telling us to do with those 3 things there, then the calories that we take in, that's where calories come in. They do come in. Some people say our calories don't matter. They do. They do. Calories in versus calories out. It's that a lot of people tend to think that calories is all that matters. It's nowhere even near close. But calories do matter. So if I need 2,000 calories and my functions of my GLP-1 elevation has just told me to don't take that 1 bite of egg and then don't take any chips or desserts in between our snacks, and then I'm not even hungry now, so I don't eat breakfast. I'll eat at brunch and I'll eat at dinner time because I'm not even hungry. And basically at the end of the day, I've only consumed 1,000 calories, but my body needs 2,000 calories. Because that's what it takes for my brain to function, my lungs to function, my liver to function, my kidneys to function. That's what it takes for my body to function. The body is not going to die. It's going to protect itself. And if you have fat cells that have stored fat, that's what your body's going to use. So we're essentially tricking our body to use our stored fat. That's all we're doing. Simple as that. All right. Now, there are certain foods that strongly activate GLP-1, and there are certain foods that strongly deactivate GLP-1. All right? And I think, like I said, the chicken and the egg theory that I had before, I think that we've taken in too many foods that have deactivated our GLP-1. What are those? The processed foods, refined grains, and the refined foods, the refined carbohydrates, and the seed oils. Don't have a lot of time to talk about the seed oils. That's a topic for another lecture. I tried to put it all into this lecture, and people got pissed off at me because the lectures were going too long. I get it. So I'm just going to tell you what it is. You can Google it, look it up. Seed oils and refined carbohydrates are the two products that destroy our GLP-1. How do they destroy our GLP-1? I won't go into it, but just to kind of give you an idea. Like for instance, the seed oils, they make byproducts. When you eat the seed oils, they then turn into a product, hydroxyoctadecanoic acid. Forgive me. But they turn into a product that destroys your mitochondria. Your mitochondria then make your GLP-1, and you stop making GLP-1. Enough said. Okay? So those seed oils make your body stop making GLP-1. So when your body gains weight on seed oils and refined carbohydrates, we're going to take your sample of your portal vein and see what your GLP-1 levels are. Universally, they're going to be low, extremely low, sometimes even unmeasurably low. Okay? All right. So, can I turn it back on? Absolutely. That's the one cool thing about GLP-1 cells and our L cells. We may have destroyed them, but I have more GLP-1 cells in the lower part of my small bowel. If I can get to the unused part of my small bowel and reactivate those, i.e. through surgery, this is what I do. But there are ways to do it without surgery. And that's why you're here today. Tell you how to do it without surgery. So the GLP-1 cells are all along our intestinal tract, and we have to activate those cells. So when we deactivate them in the upper part of the small bowel. Our goal is to recruit the unused GLP-1 cells, or the relatively new ones, and bring them back to life. So we have to concentrate on certain foods and stay vehemently away from other foods. The first food we're going to take in is what? Protein. Somebody put protein. Absolutely. Absolutely. Protein and fiber. Somebody put fiber in it. You're absolutely right. But this is the key. The reason I say protein first is because protein gets to your small bowel first, and it gives a good stimulation. I'll show you a graph in a second. But if you take in fiber first, is it bad? No. The only problem is if you take in fiber first, it'll start getting you full, and you won't take in the amount of protein. Is that always true? No. Because there are cultures, Okinawa, Japan, southern rural Africa, where all they eat is fibrous plants. They don't have a lot, but the protein is in the plant. Here in the United States, we've taken most of the protein out of our plants. We've taken most of the fiber out of our plants. We've taken the bran and the germ out of the plants because the fiber in our plants contains bran, germ, and endosperm. That's the brown rice. That's the brown rice that you never see. You only see that white rice, that white processed rice, or that grain, or the tortilla. When I tell you that the healthy Hispanic people eat tortillas and they don't get fat because their diet consists of tortillas, they're eating wheat tortillas. Small tortillas, not the 10-inch ones that you see in Taco Bell. So people say, okay, yeah, I'm going to go to Taco Bell because he said the tortillas are good. No. Those tortillas at Taco Bell are white flour. They've been processed. The germ and the bran have been taken out. So the vitamins, the nutrients, and the actual thing that the fiber, which is the guar gum and the psyllium husk fiber, are taken out of those things. That's why there's a difference in cultures. But back in the day, when rural Africa, that's all they ate. That's all they could eat, because obviously the meat protein came with the price. You had to hunt it, you had to kill it, and that was dangerous. So the easier way to eat every single day was taking the fiber every single day. And there's a beautiful study, I don't know if I have it listed here, but when you take people that come from African Americans that come from Africa, come here, the incidence of colon cancer goes up, right? We know that. We've heard about that, right? The Black Panther, colon cancer. But when we take the Southern Africans, we take their diet, the incidence of colon cancer is extremely, extremely low. 5 out of 100 versus what we have is 60 out of 100, 40 out of 100. But the problem is in the amount of fiber we eat. So fiber cuts all of that down. And the fiber is in the plants. That's why I have to give it to vegans. The only problem with vegans is the amount of protein that they're getting, especially when I do their surgery, is inadequate, and there's some other problems that go along with it. But vegans or vegetarians are extremely healthy if they eat the right fiber. And it's based upon studies that we've been doing over 100 years. Okay, let's go keep going. Protein is strongly activated in the small bowel. So if you said protein and fiber, you were correct. It's just that I prioritize protein, and you should too, primarily because there's a certain amount that we got to get in. We got to get in 1.6 to 2.2 grams per kg. And in protein, it's the quantity that we got to take in. We got to take in that amount. So we all here today have to take in at least 100 grams of protein. Are you getting that in? Probably not. So we're suffering on protein. And then if I tell you to eat fiber first, you're going to get full, and you're definitely going to decrease the amount of protein you take in. So if you do take fiber, you're going to have to take a protein. And if you have had bariatric surgery, you're going to have to take protein in the form of shakes. Protein shakes. No ifs, and buts about it. You got to do it. And if you don't do it, you will notice that your body begins to fail. We won't get into that just today. All right? But protein first, and then you take your fiber, then the healthy fats, okay? Fiber feeds bacteria. And again, the way fiber works, and the reason it decreases colon cancer, is it activates butyrate. Butyrate is that short-chain fatty acid that causes mucus to line up in our colons and causes good secretion mucus and makes our colon epithelium healthier. So it's actually in and of itself an anti-cancer short-chain fatty acid. It actually blocks some of the effects of bile acids, and I'm not going to take you to biochemistry, but it basically makes your colon healthier. That is the reason that people who have a high intake of fiber, because of that butyrate, have a lower incidence of colon cancer. Okay? So, and the studies have been done here. People who are vegan, have been vegan for a long time, obviously have, and they're black, where black people have a higher incidence of colon cancer, starting at an early age. Blacks who are vegan have a lower incidence of colon cancer. Okay? We just got to correct the protein part. All right. So fiber feeds bacteria that produce butyrate. Butyrate is a colon protective, but it also activates L cells. Cool. And those L cells are the ones that we recruit to increase your GLP-1, because GLP-1 does those three things that we talked about that causes you to take in less calories. Less calories means that you're going to have to go to the fat bank and get those calories. Okay. Then we take healthy fats. Healthy fats also stimulate the L cells and GLP-1 as well. Okay? So those things we do. Now, when I talked about protein, there's a certain amount that you have to take. But when I'm talking to you about fiber, it's more about quality. We talk in general that you have to take 26 to 35, 38 grams for men, 25 grams for women. We talk in those terms about amount, but we're hoping that you get in the quality of fiber that you need, because it's quality of fiber that matters most. All right? So if you're taking in psyllium husk, which is very, very cheap to take, you're taking a psyllium husk, that gives you that soluble fiber that you need. And that's Metamucil. That's simple. But that fiber is good, but it's not the only one. You need a multitude of fibers to come together that actually decrease your incidence of having problems with your colon. Okay. So it's the quality of fiber. So when we say 25 to 38 grams, we're hoping that during that process of getting those fibers, that quantity of fiber, that you get a diversity of fiber. But basically it's better to decrease the amount and get a higher diversity. We'll talk about that. What are the two types of fiber that we need every single day? We need, and what are the advantages of fiber? Okay, basically the two types of fiber are soluble and insoluble. Somebody just asked the question, how much fiber do we need per day? The amount, if you're counting grams and you're not diversifying very much, in other words, you're just going to get some psyllium, or you're going to get some acacia or some inulin, that I need you to take in 25 to 38 grams per day. That means that you're going to have to, every kind of meal that you take, you're going to put a little scoop of that triple fiber, which is causing some gas, but that means that it's working. Because your bacteria are fermenting that inulin that causes gas. But you're going to take that 3 or 4 times a day. Okay? That can be bloating to some people, it can be uncomfortable to some people, but if you're talking about how many grams you need to take in, that's what you need to do. About 3 to 4 of those little triple fibers every single day. Now, that can be a little much for people, but it has to be done primarily if we want our fiber. Now, going back to that original slide, that is the one thing, if I could tell you one thing to do that would allow you to live to be longer and healthier, is fiber. Period. Full stop. I promise you. I've done the literature search for you. The Okinawans in Japan, the old Okinawans in Japan, primarily they lived to be 100, 110 years old. People in Greece that lived to be 100, 110 years old, basically it's the fiber. It's always, when you find the centurions, it's always related to fiber. When you go to the rural parts of Africa, it's related to the fiber that they're taking in. Okay? So, and they're not only living to be 100, but they're still working at 100. So wouldn't it be great, because we've never had the opportunity, many of us haven't, my mother and father did, their mother and father did, but it would have been great for us to start making a generation of people that were able to see our great-great-grandkids. That means your kids, kids. Wouldn't it be great to eventually get that point where you can actually see your great-great-grandkids? I wish it happened in my family. Didn't, but I wish. I think that would be something kind of cool. But I think that we can begin to start doing that if indeed we concentrate on what we're doing with our bodies. And like I said, that title on that slide is a lot to me because I've done the research. Now, the reason that you hadn't heard about this is because it's not sexy. It's not, if let me just kind of put it another way. If I could decrease colon cancer, decrease hypertension, decrease obesity, decrease diabetes, decrease brain fog and dementia in a pill, on a purple pill, it would be $1 trillion industry. And every doctor would be writing it because we would have learned about it because it's a pill that Big Pharma is making money off of. But vegetables, is Big Pharma making money on it? No, that's why you don't see any commercials about it. When's the last time you saw a commercial about eating healthy amounts of fiber? Anybody, just put that in the chat. When's the last time you saw any commercial that touted you eat 25 to 38 grams of fiber in any form, whether you eat the diverse form or eat just the amount? I'm going to show you, and eventually probably tomorrow, but I'm going to show you how to take in less fiber and get better results. But when have you seen that on television? I've never seen it, not once. Not ever. Because there's no money in it. And so when I tell you that that's the one thing that your doctor doesn't tell you, if you've had breast cancer, if you've had a stroke, if you've had a heart attack, you're here on this thing today. How many times after your stroke, your heart attack, your diagnosis of diabetes, have you gone to your doctor's office after they started you on Plavix, after they started you on a statin, after they started you on a blood thinner? How many times have they sat you down and said, okay, now you got to start eating this? They do that? Or they just go ahead and renew your prescription? Yeah, that's what we've been taught to do because we've been taught all through medical school to diagnose a disease and treat it. Treat it surgically, treat it with medicine. That's all we've been taught. That's why you're not going to hear it. And go to your physician to talk to them about obesity. Most of them are obese. A lot of them. They may be taking the GLP-1s now, but they started out. So, because we weren't taught, we have probably 0 hours. I'm not sure now, but I had 0 hours in nutrition in medical school. So anyway, that's the way it is, okay? And so it's not sexy, it's cheap, and you can do it every single day. And in order to accomplish what I just said, you got to do it every single day. I'm going to show you how to do it in food. You got to take with each meal. Before each meal, you got to take your vegetables, or your beans, or your lentils, or your quinoa. I'm going to show you what you need to take. All right. All right, so I'm going to skip over all the muscle strength. That's going to be a topic for another talk, because we're going to concentrate on the number one thing that's going to make you live 10 years longer healthily, okay? So this is GLP-1, and this is how we're going to activate this GLP-1. This is the small bowel. So when I take in food here, I want whatever food I take in, I want it to stimulate these GLP-1 cells first. That's protein. Okay, that protein will cause your GLP-1 to go up, then it'll go back down. Right? It's very, very short-lived, because you have this enzyme that breaks it down called dipeptidopeptidase 4. Don't worry about it. But then, if you got these cells that are dead because you've eaten snacks and crackers and cookies and seed oils and refined carbohydrates, then we got to go lower down and get some healthier cells. And then we even got to try to go to the colon to get some healthier cells. So we're going to start with protein, but then we're going to supplement on that same plate. We're going to put fiber. And we're going to put a certain quantity of fiber and quality of fiber on that plate. I'm going to show you what to do. All right, this is just talking about the surgery. Just to show you how the surgery works, when I cut your stomach into a small amount, I'm decreasing the amount of calories you can take in. That's all I'm doing. But then I'm bringing gastric bypass, at least, I'm bringing up those unused cells. Remember, the cells here have been deactivated. I'm bringing up those relatively new cells and trying to activate them again. But I can easily deactivate these cells by taking the seed oils and refined carbohydrates. So when I do the surgery with you, we're going to spend time with you telling you to come back to these webinars to learn. Because there's 40% of my patients and 40% of every doctor's patients that regain their weight. And they regain their weight primarily because they think that the surgery is going to do the job, but it's not. The surgery is going to make the job easier. So it's sort of like going back in the day when we used to have to take bricks and put them onto a lever, and take them up to the top of the roof in order to put the higher part of the wall. Now we can use a wheelbarrow. Now we can use a machine to do it. All the surgery is the machine that's making it easy. You still got to put the bricks. You still got to do the work of giving your body the protein and the fiber. But the bypass and the sleeve just makes it easier to do. We forget that, and we think, okay, fine, now that I got the bypass and the sleeve, I don't have to do any work. And that's the wrong approach, because that's when 20, 30, 40% of the people regain their weight. Okay? All right, let's go on and finish this up. So anyway, GLP-1 does these three things. These three things then leads to us taking in less food. Therefore, we're taking in less calories. When we're taking in less calories, we have a calorie deficit. Our body says, hey, I'm not sure what you're doing, but I'm starving here, so I need some calories. What you going to do about it? I'm not hungry. Okay, well, I'm going to have to go and steal it out of your fat stores. I ain't going to ask you. I'm just going to go ahead and steal it out your fat store. That's how we lose the weight. All right, so we eat one meal a day, and this is from 10 a.m., and this goes to 10 p.m., okay? And you can see that just on one meal a day, when we eat that protein first, protein is golden, fat is the blue, I think, yep, and green is the fiber, appropriately so. So we eat protein and it comes up and goes down, all right? This is our GLP-1 levels here, relative GLP-1 signal. We want that GLP-1 to be all day long. But you can see around by 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, it's going down. But we got a solution for that, right? Don't we? But so this is a typical meal. We start at 10 o'clock. We've had our, 14 hours of fasting, and we start our meal at 10 o'clock. So we're going to get our first GLP-1 spike, cool. And then before our first GLP-1 spike goes down, we're eating eggs and bacon, beef bacon. Then we're going to get a second spike. That protein spike is going to be a little bit more area under the curve, so it's going to last a little while longer, and it's going to start coming down here. But before it can completely come down, we're going to have that fiber kick in. Now, this is all on one plate. That fiber kicks in last because it has to go all the way to the colon to ferment, to produce butyrate, so on and so forth. But this is the order not that you take this stuff in anyway. And so even though you're taking protein and then you're taking in the fat and the fiber, these kind of things can be switched around. Doesn't matter to me. It's not going to give you a whole lot of difference. But they react in the body at different times. The fiber has to do its job later down the intestinal tract and towards the colon, and therefore it's going to kick in a little bit later. And it's going to last a little bit longer as it comes down. All right? But this means that I'm going to start getting hungry at 8 o'clock. Well, I'm not supposed to eat a couple of hours before I go to sleep because that means our body would just hold on to it as fat. So I'm definitely not supposed to eat at 10 o'clock. So what happens? Well, that's just one meal. It's going to last us till 6 o'clock. At our peak, we're going to have GLP-1 at its peak. We're not going to feel hungry. Our food noise is going to be gone, and our body's going to be robbing from our fat stores. And then to top it all off, then we're going to eat again at 6 p.m. and we're going to duplicate this over here. So we're going to duplicate a protein, fiber, and healthy fats. We're going to duplicate it here. So when we start that, and it kind of goes down towards at 6 or 8 o'clock, and it starts to go down, then we're going to eat again, and it gives us another wave, and we're going to eventually wind up with, this is our average GLP-1. This is our average satiety level here, which means that we're feeling full and not hungry. We got the food noise going. So you can see that that level is always above that satiety level up until 10 o'clock the next morning. That's the perfect scenario. Cool. And that just kind of goes to show you that thing. This is talking about cholesterol. This is the fiber in cholesterol. The fiber and cholesterol story is a long story. But people, let me just ask the question. How many people have in the call today have problems with their cholesterol or even problems with prediabetes or diabetes? How many people have either one of those issues? Prediabetes, diabetes, or cholesterol. All right. So diabetes, hypertension, and all that kind of stuff. When we take in fiber, just to kind of give you an idea, when we take in this is our liver. Our liver makes cholesterol. And it's very, very stingy. So it doesn't always make new cholesterol every single day. What it does is it reprocesses it and uses the cholesterol over again. So it recycles it. So once it makes a certain amount of cholesterol, it just recycles it over and over and over again. So once we eat stuff and our liver makes the cholesterol and bile salts, and the bile salts help us digest fats. And so then this is okay, fine. Then that bile salts and cholesterol comes down here, and before it can go, this is out through your poo-poo. And before it can go out through your poo-poo, about the cholesterol poo gets reabsorbed back into the portal vein and goes back up. Goes back up into the liver. So 95 to 98% of your cholesterol is reused. Okay? All right. That's going to make some sense here in a second. So this little yellow thing is bile acids. The red thing is bile acids. The golden thing is cholesterol. And so bile acids and cholesterol do two different things. Cholesterol is taken over the body, and you make your cells with it. You can make your hormones with it. You make your progesterone, your estrogen, your testosterone with it. It has a lot of function. So your body's going to take it over throughout the body, and it's going to deposit to where it needs. The bile salts are there to help you digest fats. You eat some steak or some avocados, you got to digest fat with bile salts. So those both contain cholesterol. All that stuff is going to be recycled. And you'll see this is what this particular slide is showing. It's going to be recycled, meaning it's going to go down the intestinal tract, and normally everything in our intestinal tract comes out our poo-poo. But the bile salts and the cholesterol ain't going to go out. All right? So it's going to go back and be reused again. So I'm going to tell you what we do. So you can see it coming on down, coming on down. Come on, keep going. And it's going to go to the poo-poo? No, it's going to go into the portal vein, go back up to the liver, and all be used again. And do that same thing over again. But a lot of people in the chat here say, I got cholesterol problems. And so your body is taking that cholesterol and is not delivering it to the areas that it's supposed to be delivered into the body, and it's being taken back to the liver. So you got too much cholesterol in your bloodstream. And when that cholesterol comes in and gets into that bloodstream, depending upon the blood vessels, it can cause something called cholesterol plaque. All right. So then on this next slide, we got the cholesterol, that's the gold. We got the red hexagon, and that's the bile acids, okay? And then we got dietary fiber. What happens when you add fiber? What happens when you add that psyllium husk, that metamucil, twice a day? All right, oops. Let me see if I can make this thing go. All right, so now you're going to take fiber. Fiber's going to come, and guess what fiber does? It acts as a sponge. It traps cholesterol. It traps the bile acid. The bile acids do its thing by helping you digest foods. Then it gets trapped by the fiber. Cool. Maybe. Let's see. So now it's going to take it down there and it's going to goes back to the liver? No. It's not going to go into the vein. It's going out the poo-poo. And so your liver says, uh-oh, I need some cholesterol to make bile salts to help you digest fat. You're still eating fats. I need some cholesterol in order to help make those bile salts. I need some cholesterol to make sure your estrogen is okay, make sure your hormones are okay, make sure your cells, your lining of your cells are okay, because those cells are all made out of cholesterol. The liver says, hey, I need some cholesterol, body. And so what does it do? It basically has no choice other than to absorb it from your vessels. So the plaquing in your vessels gets less because it robs the cholesterol, the LDL cholesterol. So all the studies that I'm going to show you show that each 5 grams of soluble fiber every day, we talked about 25 to 38 grams, each 5 grams results in 6 milligrams decrease in your LDL cholesterol. Fact. Full fact. And if you take in 30 grams is 6 times 5, 30 grams, so 6 times 6 is 36 milligrams that you can decrease your LDL cholesterol. How many people need to decrease their LDL cholesterol so they can get off of statins? I'm not telling you to get off of statins, just telling you what's possible. Okay, another study that shows that the relative risk reductions of high fiber intake versus low fiber intake, and you know as well as I do that we don't take in our fiber. How many people yesterday took in the quantity of fiber? Put it in the chat box. I won't criticize anybody. But I know that the majority of my patients are not taking in the amount of fiber, unless they've been on this call every Saturday. Then they probably are. But tell me, how many people got their fiber yesterday? At least 25 grams. Okay? So if you do that every day, now you just can't do that on Monday, Wednesdays, and Saturdays. Say, well, I got it Thursday. Yeah, I did take my 25 grams. It takes every single day for the rest of your life. You got to take that quantity in. Now, again, that's why there's no money in it. It's boring. It's not sexy. Taking Metamucil every single day, twice a day, I ain't gonna do that. And make it viscous and make it, it's boring. But healthy sometimes is boring too, because it gives you a 31% of coronary heart disease, 24% decrease of heart attack, 22% risk of stroke, 15% risk of all-cause mortality, including cancer, and 16% risk of developing type 2 diabetes. That's the data that says I'm going to give you 10 years of living longer, healthier, because you're not going to have stroke, heart attack, or diabetes. All right, so the recommendations, if you're going to take quantity, adults taking 38 grams, females taking 25 grams, if quantity is your goal. You can take in less if it's diverse. The diverse types of fiber are the guar gum, the psyllium husk, the locust bean gum. the pectin fibers, which is the peel of the pear, the peel of the orange, not the orange, the peel of the apple. And then you take oat bran and oat glucamine or oat fiber. Those different types of fiber. You take the diverse quality of fiber, then you don't have to take in as much. Okay? So you want soluble fiber to be 10 to 15 grams a day. Let me just look at the box. Several people said that they did get their fiber perfect. Somebody says I'm guilty. Nope. I did 23 grams. I had 20. So getting that amount every single day is where you need to be. And it is boring. I'm not going to lie. I'm going to be fully transparent here. Okay? Anyway, insulin resistance, I'm going to say briefly more about this. The three things that these slides are out of order. The three things that cause insulin resistance is chronically elevated insulin. Where does chronically elevated insulin come from? We already talked about it. You're snacking all day. You're eating 3 meals a day. That's why we're going to cut out the snacks, eat 2 meals a day, and then we're going to have something that keeps us from snacking, our GLP-1. We're going to activate our GLP-1 on 2 occasions. 2 occasions is going to be with our brunch and with our dinner. And therefore, we don't have to snack in between. The second cause of insulin resistance is stress hormone. We'll talk about how we can de-stress ourselves in the future, but that is second on the list. And then the third on the list is inflammation. All 3 things cause insulin resistance, but the number one and the most controlled. Can we do much about our inflammation? A little bit. Can we do much about our stress? A little bit. But can we do anything about our insulin resistance as far as snacking all day? Absolutely. Glucose all day? Hyperinsulinemia? Absolutely. That's the one thing we have direct control over. Okay? These are the studies that I'm talking about as far as the fiber and things of that nature. Food order. When I tell you to take in protein, fiber, and healthy fats, there's a reason for that. And as a matter of fact, just to be fully transparent, if you're taking in protein first, it does have a little bit of blunting of some of the carbohydrates you take. Now, for you guys who are metabolically sick out there, I don't recommend taking in carbohydrates. Even I've gotten away from telling people to take in what I know is relatively healthy in all the cultures, sweet potatoes. There's a culture that primarily lives on sweet potatoes, and that's basically 60 to 70% of their daily meals is because of sweet potatoes. But the sweet potatoes over there are purple, and they're small, and they're kind of crunchy, and they're kind of hard, and they eat the whole thing, including the peel, after they wash it. Over here, they're kind of orangey colored. We don't eat the fiber on the outside. Instead of steaming it and keeping it kind of crunchy, we bake it. We bake our sweet potatoes, and then we open it up. We put butter on it and cinnamon on it and brown sugar on it and cream on it. That's different. So knowing that people did that, I just kind of said, okay, fine, it's better to tell my people to stay away from sweet potatoes. But to be fully honest with you, sweet potatoes are fine. If indeed you get the right sweet potato and you do it right. But people came back, and they have. They said, Doc, you said sweet potatoes. I did it a long time ago, years ago. That's why I stopped. The people said, Doc, you said sweet potatoes are fine, but my glucose went up, my glycemic index went up, blah, blah. I said, oh, okay, my bad. And it's just like full transparency, tortillas are fine. In certain cultures, they're eating tortillas every single day, and they're fine. But they're eating it with real wheat, real brown wheat. Not the things you get at Taco Bell. And so where they blanch it and they basically process it and they put it in white flour and they put it in Taco Bell, and it's a tortilla that's 10 inches long. The tortillas that I'm talking about are short, stubby, and they're crunchy. They're not chewy. And so those tortillas that I'm talking about that are healthy are indeed healthy. But whenever I say, okay, fine, you can eat tortillas and you can eat sweet potatoes and all that, people take it to the extreme. They go get the tortillas at Taco Bell, and they regain their weight. They go get their sweet potatoes at the regular store, and they regain their weight. So I just found it easy to say stay away from it. But I'm going to be transparent with you and tell you that these things, in the right context, are fine. Now, go one step further. If you take the sweet potato and you try to do it the right way, and you wash it real good, and you take the skin of it and you eat some of the skin as well, Sweet potato is fine as long as you take your vegetables with it. And I'm sorry about saying vegetables, your fiber, because vegetables ain't enough. Just to have a little bit of broccoli, which is mostly insoluble, it has a little bit of soluble fiber to it, and a little bit of asparagus, ain't enough. And you got to get 2 servings of fiber. Okay, these are just all the studies. All right. Okay, so this is the experiment. I don't have time because I'm going to finish up here a little bit, but I do want to show you some other things. These are our foods that we're taking in. No fiber. Pancakes, eggs, and bacon. That's what people are going to get today at Hop. This is what we have for dinner. No fiber in that, right? Could be. No fiber in this brunch. But we go our day, we eat food, and we say, oh, that was good food, that was good breakfast, but there's no fiber in it. Going back to that first slide, the one thing, if I could tell you to do today, one thing that could change your life and make you live healthy for 10 more years, increase your life, is increase your fiber intake. You're going to feel full after that meal, aren't you? No fiber in that, and that little green lettuce don't count. No fiber there. You'll feel full after that meal. Okay. So you kind of get the drift. All these things that we eat every single day, and we're full, and we're going to bed, we're not hungry, have almost zero fiber. So my story, a few years ago, this is my all-natural belly. This is me. I was 205. Okay? So that was when I had my atrial fibrillation. I had my my shortness of breath and all that. And I was really, really insulin resistant. I'm 205. I'm 5'10". I was obese. Okay. This is me as well from a side angle. And then, yep, all me is what it says. And then this is me trying to suck it in. So even with me trying to suck it in, it ain't going nowhere at 205. And then, let's see, a few years later, when I did the things that I'm asking you guys to do, this morning, today I am 167. Sometimes I get down to 165. That's 40 pounds. It's 40 pounds. So I've been in the struggle with you. I haven't had the surgery, so the people who are trying to figure out how I did it the way that I'm telling you to do it. Fiber, okay? And from from here, when I'm sucking it in, to this morning, this is when I'm sucking it in now. You can see my strain in here. I'm sucking it in. But you see I have a little bit of definition as compared to here. No definition. All visceral fat, all inflammatory fat, all fat that causes atrial fibrillation, causes me mild congestive heart failure. I talk about the type of fiber that I use. I do that on Sundays. I started a new program on Sundays. You can take a screenshot of this and you can join tomorrow. That's all I'm going to be talking about is fiber first and what I do. So you can take a screenshot. You can join me if you want to. If you don't want to, we'll have it on the website and you can kind of watch it later on. But I talk about the types of fiber that I take in. And I talked about why I'm passionate about this fiber because, again, we're dying too early of colon cancer. We're dying too early of diabetes, hypertension, sleep apnea. We're dying too early of diseases that your doctor should be telling you about. But please don't blame your doctor. I'm one of them. Don't blame us because we didn't know. It took me years of research to get to the point where I'm able to tell you, but it's not sexy again. And it's something that, again, if Big Pharma wanted to, they can make a pill and they can make $1 trillion. But nobody is going to take that pill because they can't patent it. They can't patent it. And so, if they could, they would have made it. But this is where we are, all right? And as far as if you want to know what it is that I take, you can go and take this QR code, and you'll figure out what it is that I'm doing, okay? So basically, what I'm going to do now is to kind of show you some of the foods. Let me see if I have the foods that you can take if you just want to do it with food. There are foods that you can take in. The only problem with those foods is that you have to take them in twice a day because those foods contain guar gum. So I talk about guar gum because can you get them in regular foods? Yes, you can. Guar gum, locust bean gum. Those two are the soluble type of fiber that you need every day. And in order to get that every day, just in regular foods, is lentils and black beans. So if you eat lentils and black beans, you're going to get the guar gum or the locust bean gum. Okay? If you eat pears, and you eat that twice a day, and the guar gum and the locust bean gum twice a day, you will get your quality of soluble fiber. Then you got to add in the oat bran. So they're taking 5 different things: guar gum fiber, locust bean gum fiber, pectin fiber, the peels of the apples and pears, and then oat bran, which is the oatmeal that I told you guys to stay away from. But you can take oatmeal, steel cut oatmeal. You just can't take the bran. And that, again, like I said, full disclosure, I switched from telling you, yeah, oatmeal is healthy, to telling you no, because people were taking the instant oatmeal and saying, hey, doc, you told me this was healthy. No, I told you the steel cut oatmeal is healthy, and as long as you don't mix it with a bunch of sugar and all that kind of stuff. It's just that all the oatmeals on the store, they strip out the bran and the germ. They do. And so you think you're getting it, but if they, as long as they start with the bran and the germ and they strip it off, they've allowed them to be able to put it on packaging. You remember when Cheerios said heart healthy? They allowed them to put that on the package because they started with the bran and the germ kept on that grain. Then they stripped it off and giving you only the starchy part. But because they started with the bran and the germ, they allowed them to put it on the box, which is criminal, I think, but that's just me. But that's what we're doing in all our processed foods. We're telling people that, yeah, oats are healthy, and they are. Telling people that sweet potatoes are healthy, and they are. Telling people that all the fruits are healthy, and they are. But the way we're growing them and putting them into the market, taking out the bran and the germ and just leaving the starch part, is not good for us, okay? So I'm going to show you those foods. But, yeah, we want guar gum, we want locust bean gum, we want pectin fiber, and we want oat fiber, and then we want the glucomat. So we want those fibers. If you're taking those fibers, you only have to take in a small amount. But if you're taking those fibers in the form of food, then you have to take them with each food. And I'm going to show you how much food that is. And if you do that, unfortunately, you're going to basically take in not enough protein. Protein is crucial. Protein counts as far as quantity. You got to have 1.6 to 2.2 grams per kg. So we all need 100 grams of protein, minimal, or else bad things will happen that the fiber won't help. So we got to have a quantity of protein. But when we go to fiber, we're talking about quality. So if we're going to sacrifice on volume, we've got to sacrifice on volume on the fiber side. And if we can get a higher quality and a higher diversity of fiber in a smaller package, that's what we want. That's what I'll be talking about tomorrow. And that, like I said, that'll be a Sunday talk. If you're going to church and all that kind of stuff, which I know my family does, then we'll basically have it out there on the internet so that you can watch it, okay? The contents of overbalanced food completely take away my appetite. That's very, very right. Balance completely takes away my hunger. So yeah, one of the people are talking about the product that I'll be talking about tomorrow is a product called Balance. Takes away the hunger, and that's what it does. It's a quality fiber, but you take it or you don't take it. I'm basically here to tell you that it will change lives. You can, but I'm not selling you anything. As a matter of fact, I'm not going to sell you anything. If you come to the webinar tomorrow and you see it, it's okay to buy it. Basically, I try to make sure that any profit that I make is put back to use towards helping to educate you guys or helping to better society. Not trying to better my pockets. I make enough money on surgery. And I want to be able to figure out a way, I really do, to keep people off of my operating table. Surgery is necessary for certain people. It is definitely necessary because surgery can be almost emergency for some people, because there are certain people that weigh a certain amount that if they don't get the surgery, they may not make it. So that's why surgery is there. But yeah, I use it for those folks. But if I can keep you off my operating table, you better bet that I'm going to try to. And so if I'm able to keep people off my operating table, and the ones that need the surgery, I'm operating on them. And even the ones that have had the surgery, I want to keep you off my re-operating table with the revisions and all that. So if you've had surgery and you're regaining your weight, you may want to come and listen to the talk tomorrow, because there's a way to keep you back off my operating table. Now, obviously, I make a whole lot more money with operating, right? And that's how you can tell that I'm legit, because I'm not here just to operate on you. I'm here to make it to where you're healthier, regardless of whether I make money or not. So I make my living in an operating, but I'm willing to give up that operation if I can keep you healthy. Okay? All right. I love that scale too. That scale was there this morning. And you notice that it only gave you the weight, right? My body fat percentage is 16%. Which is cool. I like that. I don't want to get too much down below that. But I was not able to get my body fat percentage because I had one camera in one hand and my thumb on the little handle. So you got to put both thumbs on the thing, hold your arms out away from your body. So it goes up your legs, up your body, out your arms, up your head, and then all the way back down again. If you don't have one connected, it doesn't read it. That's why I did read it this morning. You guys have been great today. And again, my goal is to make you healthy. But I'm going to tell you right now, if you just got to start taking in some proteins. I have my black beans right there that I'm looking at. I have my lentils, I have my quinoa. If you guys just take that in every single day, twice a day, every single day, twice a day, then you can get some good things out of life. If you can't take that in twice a day because it's boring or it's just too mundane, because you got to be consistent, come tomorrow. Let's talk about how we can get you involved in the fiber. Okay? All righty. Thank you very much. And I will let you guys go, and I will be talking to you all tomorrow, hopefully. Next Saturday, definitely. Okay? Don't forget to come back. Take care. Bye-bye. Have a great week. A great weekend.